Anyways, you gotta kind of have audio in order to say what you want to say. So, yeah, we're back. We had some glitches. Glitches is resolved. So yeah, it's always fun. There's never a dull moment on Drezen Draws, but then again, if there was, I don't think you would keep watching. So I hate to bring this to an emotional level, but the mother of a very close friend of mine passed away this week. So I hate doing these, but at the same time, I don't think we take enough time to really appreciate some of the people that we have in our lives at any given time, and I always feel awkward doing this too, but it's so that I can have closure, and more importantly, the loved ones of the departed can hopefully find closure. So I would like to ask you to join me in a moment of silence. I'd like to thank you for joining me.
Hi, Kelly.
So let's see. The mic is working. That's working. There's no dropped frames or any of that BS. Ladies and germs, I think we're finally ready to start this episode. What do you think? Yeah. Anyways, here goes. Okay, I'm gonna head on over to the little old draw cam right here as I pull up my my references. Oh my god. The absurdity of all this.
Hi, James. Hi, Kate.
Alright. Alright. Okay. I think I'm finally gonna get to frickin' work. For a second, I thought this was going to start glitching out on me, too. That'd be all I needed. I was going to make this a call-in episode somehow. Okay, so, there's a little number right there on the screen if you want to call in, and the topic will be, what is your favorite, least favorite horror film, and why? What impact did it make on you? Did it leave upon you, or didn't it? Or you can just talk about it in the comments, because I know some people are shy. I'm gonna be here a while, because Mr. Internet did not want to work, but my landlord saved the day. Oh, we have a caller. Caller, bear with me for just a moment while we plug you in. Okay. And let me pause the music so that we can hear your voice. Okay, say something, caller.
Hello.
Hello. So, tell us, what is your favorite, least favorite, or...
Let me start over.
What is your favorite and or least favorite horror film, and why?
Okay, so my favorite is actually a tie. I am a huge fan of Psycho, and I'm a huge fan of The Exorcist. Like, those, I would say, are my two favorite horror movies.
The Exorcist is a great one.
And my least favorite is probably Hostel.
I haven't heard too many good things about that one.
Yeah, well, there's one I like less, but even the title of it is kind of like awful. So I'm not going to bore you with that one.
No, by all means. I got a long night ahead because of technical difficulties. You're totally fine.
Well, I know you like to run a family-friendly show, so and the title isn't exactly family-friendly. So Um, it's such a bad movie. But I'm more. But the reason why my favorite versus least favorite is so dramatic is because I am a huge fan of sort of letting the viewer's mind do the work.
Uh-huh.
So, like with The Exorcist, you have the scene where you hear these growls and things coming from a door that you can see cracking under the pressure of the evil inside, but you don't see any of you don't see any of it. And I think that's really like one of the strongest parts of that film is just how much you're just sort of left to figure out what's going on in there.
So I guess what you're saying is some of the scariest stuff is not what you see, but what you don't see. And
and also I also sort of I'm sort of a believer in that while visual things can disgust you, once you can see it and once you can identify it, it's no longer scary.
Yeah.
So like by having these things happening where you cannot see them, the fear, it's genuinely the fear of the unknown that is sort of driving what's going on. Whereas more modern movies like Hostel or a few others I've seen tend to go more for shock and disgust than they do for actual fear.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of psychological horror that's on the market, and monsters often get left behind, which the movie Monster always makes for a really good time. Such in the case of Frankenstein, or Frankenstein's monster to be specific, because if we don't establish that right off the bat, we'll be in a debate all night. And quite honestly, I am in the habit of shutting down certain debates. I was like, no, that's not what it is. You can believe that, like a lot of Godzilla fans believe that that Godzilla 98 didn't use its atomic breath, but it did have a breath of some sort. And certainly not one that Tic Tacs could cure. But it was there. I don't know what movie they were watching. For all I know, they could have been watching effing Barney. But enough about Godzilla 98. I actually enjoy the movie, but there were some of us that just can't think like adults. But
truth be told, I've enjoyed every Godzilla movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, did you see the most recent one?
I haven't had a chance yet, but I am planning on it.
Yeah, it's so worth it, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a diehard Godzilla fan, and I'm currently publishing Godzilla vs. Luckyzilla, which I know is unauthorized, but I think if Toho were to read it, any of their people were to read it, they would hopefully see that it's kind of a love letter to the franchise. But you had mentioned that the Exorcist. Now, did you see any of the other Exorcist films? Because there were quite a few of them.
As far as I'm concerned, they don't exist.
So I guess you wouldn't appreciate the fact that, or at least I do anyway, that Hall of Fame New York Knicks center Patrick Ewing played the Angel of Death in The Exorcist 3.
So that was actually the last one I genuinely saw, and that one struck me as more of a horror comedy than an actual horror movie.
Ah, okay. So it's kind of like Monster Squad in a way.
Sort of, or like Evil Dead, or you know, it you know, honestly, a significant portion of me is actually kicking myself for not saying that Evil Dead is my favorite horror movie. But it's more of a horror comedy, so like, you know, it's not my favorite horror movie, but it's definitely my favorite horror comedy movie.
Oh,
Evil
definitely.
Dead.
Yeah, I love the Evil Dead films, and I'm not big on Italian horror films. I will say, by far, one of the worst horror movies I've ever seen, House by the Cemetery from 1981. Now, the Italians have a very interesting way of making horror films. And at least those that I've seen register in the way that the gorier, the better. Yeah, and I mean, it's like, hey, I don't mind violence, but, you know, at the same time, I mean, it's like, take it easy on the body count. Just remember, some schmo is going to have to clean all that up at some point. I mean, the monster doesn't care.
And unless you're a millionaire, like, you know, a couple horror story people have been, it's going to be you who cleans it up. So maybe take it easy on yourself.
Yeah. I mean, Vincent Price ain't cleaning that up. I mean, he's too busy, looking for his next victim. Which, by the way, it's been quite a while since I've seen House on Haunted Hill. But I have seen that all the way through. I just don't remember enough of it. And you're gonna think that I'm absolutely, you know, nuts. But I have never seen, at least all the way through, any of the Nightmare on Elm Street films.
I've seen all 5 of them, and honestly, I think 3 really is the magic number for horror movies. I think once you get past 3, you get horrifically into Campville.
Uh-huh.
And, like, if that's what you're going for, then more power to you, because camp is awesome.
Camp is awesome.
Like,
unless it's Camp Crystal Lake, then it's not so awesome.
True. Very true. But I know, but there's, like, purposeful camp, it's weird, because, like, purposeful camp is almost worse, because, if you're sort of, like, trying for camp, really, then it sort of falls flat, but if it's like, no, we were trying to be serious, and
like
it came out campy, then, yes.
Yeah, like, I mean, they were doing it, you know, straight, but obviously it didn't really come off that way. But we forgive them because, you know, we love them. And,
well, it was, like, the time period also does sort of have to be taken into account.
Well, we could try to do that, but, you know, I mean, in terms of time period, I mean, I could probably find myself in a nasty debate with somebody over the 1925 Phantom of the Opera. Now, to be fair, Phantom of the Opera I do not find scary, but I think it's just, you know, I don't go for the scare factor. I go for how good is the overall package. That's what I care about.
Mm-hmm.
I could give less of a crap about being scared, but, you know, if the movie's not any good, you know, what the hell's the point?
Yeah.
And I've seen... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, my brother and I kind of have a similar view of movies, where, like, 10s are awesome and 1s are awesome because they're awful, but, like, the most, like, offensive movie is, like, the one in the middle, where it's, like, so, like, you know, 10s being, like, you know, they put effort in, it came out wonderfully, it's a work of art.
Yeah.
Versus like a one being like, so you tried and it's terrible and I'm sorry. Whereas like a 3 to like a 6 is sort of like offensive because because there might not be all that much actual effort involved. Like it doesn't really seem like they cared about the material, and it's just sort of like wasted
Or they did.
potential.
They just had too much studio interference.
That too.
Yeah. The 1925 Phantom of the Opera most certainly suffered from studio interference, and from a director who was, pardon my French, parents with young children, batshit crazy. Like, I mean, his idea of the chandelier falling, which if you've seen the musical on Broadway is like one of the highlights of the show, was to shoot it in total darkness. Okay, first of all, you're shooting a predominantly black and white film. When you shoot in darkness, even with light, some kind of light, no. See the point that I'm making, which I've already made, like an imbecile. If you shoot in total darkness, you're getting total darkness.
That's kind of terrible because I think there was like the Phantom of the Opera that they did in what was it 2003?
2004, yeah.
Oh, it was close. I'm very proud of myself. That wasn't a great movie, and I know I'm going to get lambasted for that. But even they managed to do the chandelier scene pretty well. And yes, I've seen Phantom of the Opera on Broadway multiple times.
I've seen it once, and it was fantastic. It was better than that stupid movie. I love Gerard Butler. I love Emmy Rossum, but that movie was a turd through and through. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, but the
I'll argue that they both were able to sing relatively well, but other than that,
yeah. Other than that, the movie was trash. It was simply to try to make some money off of it. Because maybe they were looking to close the show at one point. I don't know. And here I am making a semi-derpy Frankenstein. I gotta cut that out.
It looks fine to me.
Yeah, and I mean, it's really not hard to figure out what what derpy means if you really don't understand it. Either you're not a brony or a My Little Pony fan or what. I don't care.
I know who Derpy Hooves is.
Yeah, so do I. I actually did have plans, but I keep pushing it back for reasons I'll get into when I get closer to airing that episode. But I would love to do a My Little Pony episode. Some of my coworkers will kind of look at me, like I'm actually sprouting hoops or whatever, but I don't care. I'll draw just about anything. Except Star Wars, because I really cannot stand Star Wars. I know. But I have done Star Wars characters on this show. I did Barney Rubble and Chewbacca, if that helps. Yeah, and
that's kind of awesome.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's one of my worst-selling prints, but, well, hey, you win some, you lose some. Yeah,
well, some people have no taste.
Yeah. I mean, and other times, it's like you get a little overconfident and something crashes and burns, like Steven Spielberg. He did The Lost World, Jurassic Park, which is kind of trash.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I actually thought you were going to mention AI.
Oh, I haven't seen that. I don't think I want to waste my time. Do I want to waste my time?
So it's I personally kind of like it. However, It's very much like it's Steven Spielberg trying to emulate another director. So
Yes.
you get these flashes of Steven Spielberg, and then you get like Steven Spielberg trying to be somebody else.
Like
and
Stanley
it's
Kubrick?
Sweet. Yes, that's exactly who he's trying to emulate. Apparently Stanley Kubrick wrote the original screenplay. Wait, no, was it Stanley Kubrick?
I think he was the original director, then he died, and then Spielberg took over.
Yeah, it was Stanley Kubrick. Yeah, but the funny thing about the film is that so many people actually like the film up until the ending sequence, like the actual ending sequence.
Warning, spoilers.
Because I'm not gonna. The movie's like 15 years old if they haven't seen it yet. But anyway, I'm not gonna go through like the very specifics of it. The ending feels very I'm blocking. Oh my god.
Rushed.
Feels very Steven Spielberg and not Stanley Kubrick. Like he kind of sort of manages a lot of Stanley Kubrick moments throughout the film. They're a little clunky and they're not as smooth as a Stanley Kubrick moment would be, but they're decent.
Right.
But the final bit feels very Steven Spielberg.
Mm-hmm.
But the irony is, and the people who hate this movie, what they don't quite get is that Stanley Kubrick that scene is exactly how Stanley Kubrick wrote it.
Yeah.
So, because Stanley Kubrick actually wanted to be a little bit more like Steven Spielberg. He wanted to have moments in, there were some movies where he was like, I feel like I'm too serious. I would like to do more Steven Spielberg-y things. And Steven Spielberg is like, well, I think I'm a little campy sometimes. I'd like to do more Stanley Kubrick-y things. And so Steven Spielberg doing this Stanley Kubrick film was like an homage to a mentor. It fell horrifically flat, but that's what he was trying to do.
Yeah.
And so I respect the film because of what it was trying to do. Not necessarily that it succeeded, because it definitely didn't,
Right.
but because it tried. So, sort of again, back, it's maybe like a 2 or a 3, really, on that 1 to 10 scale, but you can definitely tell that there was effort there, and therefore is better because there is effort.
You didn't know me then, but 12 years ago, I made a live-action LuckyZilla short. If you have a copy, for those of you that are watching that have a copy of LuckyZilla number 5, there is a QR code, I forget on what page, but it's there. It's not at the end, where you can actually watch it. I was kind of channeling the George Reeves Adventures of Superman, but they had a bigger budget than I did. But also, that was 1952. This was 2007 in which I made it. I found an actor who was 6'5" to play LuckyZilla. Luckily, many of my friends were under 5'10", so that kind of helped the scale. I was basically trying to do at least a $50,000 film with less than $1,000 budget. And
that is a very ambitious. That is a very ambitious venture.
It was so ambitious, and I was so broke that I had to borrow money from my parents, convince them that it was going to be worth it for me to buy a green screen, because how was I going to make LuckyZilla fly? I needed a green screen. They're like, what the hell do you need a green screen for? And I'm like, because I'm going to do a live-action LuckyZilla. And they're like, you're going to do a live-action LuckyZilla? Get the hell out of here. And so eventually I convinced them. And they saw the final thing. And, it was rejected by 10 film festivals. I regret nothing about it. The only thing that I regret is that I didn't do more of them. Because even though I was disorganized as all hell, and it annoyed the hell out of some of my actors. Actually, it annoyed the hell out of all of them. But they turned in pretty good performances despite my amateurish direction. And I'm not saying that to put myself down. I'm saying that because that's exactly where I was at that moment in time. I was an amateur trying to emulate, what I had seen. I was imitating. I didn't have the level of organization that I have now in order to execute something a bit more properly. Where it fits in on the 1 to 10 scale, I'm gonna leave that up to the viewers to decide, because that's really out of my hands. If you see the live action Lucky-Zilla, which is called The Terrible Telebomber, and you enjoy it, great. If you hate it, I won't be offended, because this was me at 21 years old, about to be dumped by my girlfriend, and I was doing the best I could with what I had. Did I deliver? I made the thing. But anything else, hey, it's up for you. It's up to you guys to decide. I mean, it's old news for me now. But the story was, I felt, was good enough to be remade in comic form, which it was 2 years ago in Lucky-Zilla #5. So I think it's very interesting that you bring that up. Oh boy, so many memories. Good memories, mind you.
Yeah.
So any other thoughts you would like to share about favorite horror film? Oh, better yet, you know what? Because it is Halloween. What would you have to say is your best memory of Halloween? Describe your best Halloween.
Oh boy. I think I was about 13. About 13. And there was we lived in an area of California called Ross, and like nobody will be able to find this place ever, because it's like literally you blink and you've driven through it. And there was this street called Shady Lane in Ross, and it has the best decorations, like hands down every year, amazing decorations. There's this big old Addams Family style Victorian house on that lane, and they actually one year did it. Like, did the Addams Family, like, had the music going, they had a giant lurch, and also they were handing out, like, full-size candy bars. So, when you're 13, that's a big deal. But, yeah, no, just, like, that entire year of, like, that year's entire Halloween was really fun. I was, that was sort of like, the year I really got into costuming, and I don't remember what I was that year anymore. I think I was Hermione Granger. But it was a fun year, and I really got into costuming that year.
Sure. Yeah, I would have to say, I don't remember exactly the best Halloween. I do remember my best Halloween costume. Sonic the Hedgehog. Yeah. Yeah. as soon as I found out that
Did you look like the one? Did you look like the one that was in the movie that's coming out before they decided to go back and fix it?
Oh, hell no. And besides, that's another debate I don't want to get into with people, but quite honestly, I thought the design was fine. You know, it's the fans that suck. I mean, okay, the studio decided to put it back into production, you know, and quote unquote fix some things, but I thought it was just fine. You know, the movie itself, I think, is going to be a train wreck. But anything that they've put into it can't be any better or any worse, I don't think. But we'll have to wait and see. You know, to quote a former comic book writer who will remain nameless, otherwise he will drive out to New York and whoop my sorry little ass. I cannot wait to miss it. But anyways, oh yeah, best Halloween memories. I remember I wore that costume like it was nobody's business, and I was getting made fun of left and right, and I'm just like, F you, I'm Sonic the Hedgehog. Yeah. My one regret with that costume was that my sister would not play Tails. I mean, she wouldn't play Tails in real life, but certainly not with her brother.
Like, ew, that's icky. Like, run around in a costume with your brother.
Yeah, I'll say this. Like, even though I just dragged Sonic right now, I didn't really have an issue with the way it was. Personally, have an issue with it. I just know that the fans were like up in arms.
Well, Sonic fans.
But
yeah. Go ahead.
But like I will like. Well, I also wasn't a huge Sonic fan. Like, I only ever played one of the games. I wasn't a huge fan. But what I will say is that with it being such a well-known property, and the Pokemon movie having come out and actually doing a really good job of turning these two-dimensional chibi animals into like three-dimensional, like realistic-ish looking animals.
Yeah.
That movie, I think it probably wouldn't have had quite the vitriolic reaction that it did if it hadn't come out after Pokemon, because Pokemon did such a good job of making the Pokemon look real. And then there's Sonic, where like real and also from the Pokemon world. Like there was a very nice overlap there, whereas Sonic didn't. No. And like Sonic didn't manage to do the whole like, you know, oh, this is the cartoon character that we know and love, and we managed to make him look real. Like they didn't do that. So like I feel like on the one hand I don't really care, but on the other hand I feel like the creators of the movie should have known, especially given other fan darling films that have come out. They should have known that if they didn't sort of hold to the original source material, that the fans were going to have a hissy fit.
Yeah, and I mean, quite honestly, I had my own ambitions for a Sonic film, which I've since put in the ash can because, well, you know, I mean, if somebody else got there first, I mean, what good is it for me? Besides, I have my other thing, my own things to worry about even before I start thinking about big budget Hollywood films. But that notwithstanding, you know, I heard Jim Carrey was going to be in it. Okay, all right, that's interesting. Not enough to make me want to go see the movie, but you know, then I hear that James Marsden is going to be in it, and he was a terrible Cyclops. I'm sure he's a really fine actor. I feel like he tries, but he is box office poison. You look at Superman Returns, which is a terrible movie on its own, and he's in there. playing a major character, I'm hoping is going to save this movie, and he just kind of makes it worse. And he's this cop character. When do you ever see a cop character in a Sonic game? You don't. Is Sonic interacting with humans? If it's anyone else other than Dr. Robotnik, notice how I said Dr. Robotnik, so don't you dare call him Eggman around me. I mean, you can, but I'm not going to throw a hissy fit like some of the fans. But that said, I was just like, yeah, this movie is it's gonna fail. It's gonna fail miserably. Even with the redesign, which is all well and good. Paramount and Sega, are spending money, and best wishes to them. But I don't know. I don't think that they're pulling this one off. I just don't. Sorry to be more cynical than usual, but this is just, that's just how I feel.
No, I would tend to agree with you.
Yeah, but
I don't think it. I will say this: I don't think it is I don't think it is cinematic gold. That's for sure.
No, not in the least. Now I do want to touch upon a little bit of the classic monsters. Of course, I'm drawing a classic monster, and I have to admit, the first time that I saw the Universal Frankenstein, my dad brought it home from the video store, so already I know I'm dating myself, but I worked at a video store for 5 years. And he puts it on, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, Dad's just showing me another one of his crappy horror films from when he was a kid. And it starts off with that with the prologue, which was removed from the film for a number of years because it used the word God, and back then I guess that was a no-no. But not much has changed, because you can't say God on TV nowadays. I wonder why. And the movie starts, and my dad is kind of looking at me like I'm supposed to be scared or something, and I'm like, Dad, cut it out. And I watched the film from beginning to end, one sitting. It's very easy to sit through. It's barely an hour and 10 minutes, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And as soon as I had enough money to pick up a copy of it, I just jumped at the chance, because I blew all my money as soon as I earned it as a kid. That's kind of how I rolled. Yeah, but it's still left an impression on me, not in an inspirational and artistic kind of way, but just, it was such a solid film with solid performances and solid characters, not just from Boris Karloff, but from Colin Clive, Mae Clark, John Bowles, Frederick Kerr, and Dwight Fritz, later in the films known as Igor or something. It transcends a lot of other monster films that were made later, because you feel for the monster, just like you feel for King Kong, and you feel for other sympathetic monsters that don't ask to be what they are. Even the Wolfman, you could sympathize with to a point. But the monster is just played with such conviction. You almost wonder if he could actually exist and be.
Well,
go ahead.
I truth be told, I haven't actually seen Boris Karloff's Frankenstein, but I've seen several other versions of it, and I love just the allegory of the story itself.
Yeah.
There are a lot of moments that are speaking of God, very reminiscent of somebody who is trying to explain to people their duty to the world, really, and also that that if there's kind of this feeling, at least what I got from it. When I was in high school, we did a section on Gothic literature, and Frankenstein was one of the books we read. And I wrote an essay on how the story of Frankenstein is essentially chastising humanity for not treating other creatures well, and also, excuse me. Also pointing out that that if there is a God, he hates us and wants nothing to do with us.
Yeah. I'm sure to an extent.
And I went to a Catholic high school, so that went over really well.
And you what?
I went to a Catholic high school, so that went over really well.
Oh, I'm sure it did. I'm sure it did. Well, hopefully they didn't look at you like you were a member of the Westboro Baptist Church at that point. Like, the end is nigh and all that fun garbage, but, you know...
that wasn't really my message from my essay. It was more like...
you know how people just, confuse a lot of things nowadays. Just to try
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
well, truth be told, my Catholic school was... I was one of the good ones. Other Catholic schools in the area were like, oh, you're going to like the really like lax one. Other Catholic schools didn't really see us as a Catholic school.
They don't have to, I mean.
But there were nuns. There were definitely nuns.
Oh yeah, with or without rulers.
Without.
Ah, okay. Yeah, my mother is a Catholic school survivor. Yeah. I mean, I'll let her tell that story one of these days if I have her back on the show. Like, I mean, there are some people that would look at me like I'm really desperate for people to come on the show if I have my own mother on. But she happened to be dropping by anyway, and I'm like, hey, Ma, you want to be on Drezen Draws? And she's like, meh. And so she was. Just why not? Where was I going with this? Oh yeah, she was in Catholic school, and she enjoyed it for the most part. I don't think I'm gonna delve too much deeper into this Catholic school thing because I had a joke, but I lost it, and if I go any further into it, I think that nun that may have wrapped my mother on the knuckles with a ruler is probably going to rise from the dead and excommunicate me. So.
Ooh, yeah.
Not that I care because I haven't been to church and I don't know how long. But yeah, getting back to Frankenstein, you do raise a very interesting point about Frankenstein being an allegory for, humanity is kind of an abomination, and basically we suck. If only Mary Shelley could have seen just how far it would go, but
Well, then, like the very end of the book sort of implies that humanity kills God too.
Yep.
So
To quote Dr.
she
Ian
Nietzsche'd before Nietzsche did.
What's up?
I think she Nietzsche'd before Nietzsche.
It's almost like what Dr.
I could be wrong, though. I don't remember who was first.
What's up?
I don't remember who came first, Nietzsche or Shelley.
That's a good question. It's almost like Dr. Ian Malcolm said in Jurassic Park. God creates man. God creates dinosaurs. God destroys dinosaurs. God creates man. Man creates dinosaurs. Man destroys God. Woman inherits the earth. Good times. So,
yeah, that was a fun movie.
yeah. So at this point, I have taken up so much of your time, and I appreciate it. I'm going to put some music on, because for whatever reason I can't with you on the call. I didn't set it up right because technical difficulties. So thank you again, caller, and we look forward to hearing from you on another call-in episode of Drezen Draws.
All right, look forward to it.
Thank you. Whoops. Okay. Now let's see. This is no longer a call-in episode. Okay. Folks, I am going to scrap this. I don't like the way it's looking. I'm just like really in the zone right now. I'm really like anxious to get this character right. I'm exhausted. I am exhausted from drawing this guy. You know, I'm not even going to worry about the face right now. I'm just going to concentrate on the body. Normally a little bit more talkative during this process, or at least I ought to be when I finally book a birthday party, which would be nice. And I can be booked for birthday parties to teach you and your kids how to draw some of their favorite cartoon characters and or fictional characters. I'm gonna give him retractable claws. almost at what's going to be my least favorite part of this drawing. The face. So you know what we're gonna do? We're going to start coloring this bastard. And then work our way into the face. And hopefully it will not be my undoing. Gotta have a pattern on this. Gotta have the threads. Even though it's Freddy Krueger and not Thready Krueger, still. Shirt's iconic. This is something one of my old bosses would call a tremendous waste of time. That's one of the reasons why I don't work for him anymore. Because 'twas he that was a tremendous waste of time. do something a little differently here. I'm using a lot of layers this time around. I normally don't use this many layers. This taking a while. Now here comes the really hard part. Still going. feels like Halloween tonight. Oh, listen to that wind howl. That's kind of repulsive. there we go. Not a single dropped frame. Good. Okay. You get to a certain point in the evening where you start scrutinizing even your own signature. Whew. Let me tell you something, folks. This was a workout to the extreme. I mean, yeah. So, 69 episodes. Yeah. Well, next week we'll be back with episode number 70. Just a few quick announcements. I will be at the Long Island Comic Book Expo this Sunday, November 3rd, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Hilton Long Island. That's the Huntington Hilton. You can hire me for birthday parties and corporate events. Message us on this page or visit DrezenMedia.com for more details, or to just book me. I will give you all the details when you book, so you don't pay until you know exactly what you're getting. And also, like always, we've got LuckyZilla the game for sale on LuckyZilla.com. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like our Facebook page, subscribe to us, and especially like our Facebook page so that you can join in on voting for which candidates get drawn and so on and so forth. And otherwise, enjoy your evenings and happy Halloween. That's it. That's all.